As Run DMC famously said, you talk too much. Very patiently waiting, none other than James Ashby, running, of course, for One Nation in the seat of Keppel in the Queensland election. Kristy McSweeney with the PR Counsel. Lovely, lovely people. All right, so, James, just in terms of political messaging, right, like you've seen literally just the craziest of responses to the Dutton nuclear stuff, right? The polls right now say there's about 22% of people undecided. We'll all wait and see how that goes. But I'm going to play it for the third time. This is Tanya Plibersek's chief argument against him, which is we're costing too much money. Roll it one more time and your immediate response off the back, mate. Go.
He is saying to Australians, I don't trust you. I don't trust you with the costings we've done, if he's done the costings, or he's saying we've announced a policy without costing it. Like, when has an opposition ever gone to the Australian people with something as fundamental as saying we're going to slam the brakes on renewables, we're going to move to nuclear instead, and they've done it without a costing? I mean, seriously.
James?
Taking media advice from Linda Burney's old advisor by the sounds of it. In fact, might be better to roll Linda out. She might have something half decent to say on this. They are so ill-prepared, Labor, for this announcement that they have been caught off guard, and Labor really don't have an argument against Peter Dutton's very sensible plan for stability of not only our electricity grid but also our economic future as well. Because if we're to sustain the manufacturing that we want in this country, there's not much left. We've got to have reliable, cheap power. And look, if there's one thing I could implore you to have a sensible conversation with your people at News Corp, any of the newspapers, don't put these stories behind paywalls. Make sure that the Australian people can read all the data, all the debate, both sides of the argument. I think all your newspapers did a very good job during The Voice, and I think this debate here is equally as important. Can I also say how proud I am of the people for actually saying in that questionnaire that they were undecided?
Yes.
That's a really bold move from a lot of Australian people to actually say, look, I haven't made a decision because I don't know the facts on this. I think the more we can inform people about how reliable power will be in this country, if we've got a mix of power from nuclear, wind, solar, the whole lot, gas included too, we will not end up like a basket case electricity grid like they've got in South Africa. You speak to anyone who's recently come out of South Africa, they don't have stability in their grid, and so they've got these rolling blackouts that happen every single day. Every house has got to have a generator which is fired up with either petrol or diesel, and it's because they don't have stability. We've been told towards the end of this year, we're likely to have rolling blackouts in some parts of the country. I don't want that. I'm sure nobody in this country wants it. But until we get it, I don't think people realise how good we've had it in this country for a long time. I say well done to Peter Dutton. I say well done to the coalition as a whole for putting forward sensible policy that Australians now can differentiate the two. Labor, who want instability in our power, and the coalition who want to make sure that everybody has cheap, reliable power as we move forward as a nation.
Such an important point, Kristy, about that undecided factor, right? Because remember the early pollings in and around The Voice, there was only two options and that's it, and you were forced to make a decision, and when forced to make a decision, we got to 60-40. But if you see right now, 41-37, 41 in favour of it, 37 against, 22 up for grabs. Presumably by this point in time, if you weren't tending no, then you probably will start trending towards yes as an idea. But the blitzkrieg of information coming back against it, the endless flood of cartoons, and I'm not just talking from Labor MPs here, Kristy, that 22%, they're open to an argument, but will they be able to hear one?
Well, the government's made a few errors this week. It's not like the coalition hasn't given them several months to work on a decent attack to this. And what they came up with was, I think it was Richard Marles, not being able to combat how much the renewable energy cost of their agenda would be versus the nuclear energy cost. So it's a bit of, well, if you can't land a number on yours, why are you baiting the coalition into delivering a cost? It's also a failure to recognise that the government didn't go to the last election with a whole swag of policies either. It was a considerable small target election where they played Scott Morrison as their major attack rather than a policy suite for Australia, so much so that the Prime Minister was even caught on the back foot, being wedged into responding at a press conference that he would give people a 5.1% wage hike, something that he rolled back and then decided to support. So that was essentially industrial relations policy on the run, which turned into something that they heralded. So a couple of errors are Springfield and the Simpsons memes. The Simpsons debuted on Australian television and in the US in 1989. This is old narrative, old messaging for old policy and old rerun of wars to satisfy the ageing hippie base of Labor. And of course, we know they are dominant in Labor's left faction. Young people are willing to have the discussion around, well, we're technology natives. We've grown up with technology to develop policy solutions. Yes, renewable is great technology as well, but nuclear is also great technology. They don't see the difference of one technology is better than another technology. They are viewing, well, let's use all technology to solve policy challenges.